Hey guys, it's Kelsey from Your Heart is Mine, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about clinicals because they were like totes my favorite thing ever. JK. So yeah, clinicals, it was like a love-hate relationship for me because I always loved being able to like have the hands-on care and get to be with patients that day, but it was also super nerve-wracking because it was just this intense situation of like this instructor who I really didn't know well kind of judging me and seeing what I was doing and evaluating my skills, and it just was really nerve-wracking. So I just wanted to go over with you guys a few things about clinicals and what helped me do well and the things that were helpful, and just kind of some fun experiences that I kind of goofed up in. And oh my goodness, just nursing school is just a circus, and that's all I can say. So my pre-clinical routine. So I would always stay at my friend Taylor's house. She was like my nursing buddy, and she was my best friend in nursing school. And it was just fun to have someone to go to clinicals with. We weren't always in the same group, but we typically, if we had the same clinical day, we would go and we would carpool with each other. So day of, I always woke up and I did like my morning devotional, and I listened to some music, and I made sure that I had everything I needed the night before. I had all of my clinical papers out, I had all of my care plans ready, I had my books ready, I had my scrubs ready, I had my socks ready, I had everything laid out and ready for the next day, so I wasn't scrounging around, because you know how big of a deal it is if you're late for clinical. So I just made sure I had everything ready, and you guys know that. Secondly, I ate a good breakfast. I had my banana and my almonds and my black coffee. That was my routine, and I made sure I had my coffee in because Lord knows you don't want to talk to Kelsey without her coffee. So that was always check. I had that done. Something that was always really helpful for me that I wanted to tell you guys before I go into things is it has to do with care plans. So week after week, we had to submit our care plans at the end of our clinical about our patient. And when I would get my corrected care plan back from my instructor, I would literally write down the corrected care plan. It took some time, but I would type them up in a computer, and I had files full of care plans that were corrected, so I knew it was ones that were accepted by the professor or the instructor. And I would take them week after week and I would build them up in the computer. So I ended up basically making my own little care plan book on my computer with the appropriate diagnosis and interventions. So it was so easy for me to have a patient the week after, that I had another one who had a similar diagnosis or similar interventions, and I would be able to just like take that file that I wrote down all the corrected care plans on, and I would just tweak them to be specific to my new patient. And so that was always super helpful and really good because I always ended up doing really well on care plans because of it, because I knew it was what my instructor was looking for, and it was the exact corrected care plan, just tweaked to be specific to that patient. So that was a really cool little tip. And someone actually told me that tip, and I started doing it, and I succeeded very well. So there you go. So when you get to clinical, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get your assignment. And I always dreaded like just getting my assignment. I never knew who I was going to get, and it just scared the poop out of me because I don't know if you guys have programs like this, but I had a program where like you could actually U out, and U just meant like you could get 2 U's, and you could get it from like a med air or passing a med late or doing something, not sterile or not washing your hands, just little things that every day as nurses we do. But anyway, you could U out of the program. So it was really scary because it really wasn't like a learning experience. And I hated that about my program, is that clinical should be a learning experience. Like you definitely need to take it seriously and be held accountable, but I didn't know it needed to be to that extent, but it was. So we were definitely really nervous when we went. So I always tried really hard to just make sure I prepared myself mentally. If you guys need like some inspirations or just something to kind of ease your mind before your clinical, my Facebook site has my nursing inspirations from my website that basically they're just little affirmations to say, hey, you're awesome, nursing's awesome, and just a little like either a quote or just a story about nursing, and it just is really helpful. So if you guys want to check that out, feel free to. It's really awesome. So when I got on the floor, I'd get my assignment. The first thing that I recommend that you guys do is go find either the electronic chart, which is the computer, or the paper chart, and look at the H&P, which stands for history and physical. The H&P has a lot of awesome information about your patient. It not only gives you like clinical information, but it also gives you personal information. You can kind of find out where the patient came from, you know, were they homeless? Did they live at a certified nursing facility? You know, or just those kind of things. That just better helps you understand the patient and what, you know, what are we going to be doing at the end? Are we going to have to work on getting them back to a facility? Or are we going to need some, you know, if they lived home by themselves, are they now capable of going back by themselves? That kind of stuff. And it also helps guide care. So there you go. And then secondly, you need to look at your labs. Okay. So make sure you're logging onto your computer's, their profile, and look what they're here for. If they're here for heart failure, you want to look at heart failure labs. Your BNP, you want to look at the creatinine, because Lasix, which is also called furosemide, is a medication that they give for heart failure, and that can affect the kidneys. It can affect that creatinine to bump. So when that creatinine starts to go up, you want to start making sure, does the doctor want to continue giving this Lasix, or do they want to decrease the dose? Yada, yada. That's kind of stuff you're looking out for. But the main labs you want to look at when you go into their profile, you want to look at their platelets, their white blood cell count. If they're on Coumadin, which is a blood thinner, you want to look at their PTINR. You want to look at their white blood cell count, their electrolytes, potassium, magnesium, sodium, chloride. I'm trying to think what else. There's some main ones that you really want to keep an eye on. And exposing yourself to those labs and their abnormalities is helpful, because week after week you start seeing, oh yeah, you can spot right away that one's out of whack. So anyways, those are things you want to look at. And you want to look at the vital signs. Make sure they're not super hypertensive or they're not super bradycardic. You know, what is their oxygen status? Are they on oxygen? You know, do they have, they're satting 88% on room air or 88% on 2 liters, but they have COPD, so that's normal for them. You know, you kind of want to look at the whole big picture. So be an investigator, okay? I encourage you guys to do that. So after you kind of look at all the clinical information, you know, you have to go do the dreadful meet your nurse. And that's always one of those things where it's like that show Married at First Sight. You never know what you're gonna get. Like, they try to pair you up with someone good, but it's not always a good thing. So sometimes you get like the awful bad attitude nurse, or you get the nurse that wasn't supposed to have students, but the nurse who was supposed to have them called out, so they had to give them to someone else, and that person isn't typically good with students. So you never know what you're gonna get, which is so scary and frustrating all at the same time. But my biggest piece of advice is just be willing to learn. Don't act like you know it all, because we know you don't know it all. Be inquisitive, ask questions. If it's a nurse who's kind of like distant and they're just kind of got a little bit of an attitude going on, just do your thing, guys. Go in, ask the questions you need to ask the questions that you need to cover your butt with, and take care of your patient. Ultimately, you're there for your patient, and that is huge. I can't emphasize that enough. Something that I would like to say as a nurse with nursing students is it means the world to me when you guys take the time to like do that personal care, because our techs are really overwhelmed too, and sometimes our techs have to give like, they'll give baths, but they don't have time to give like full in-depth bed baths. Like, they'll kind of do baths, they sit on the side, have the patient wash their face, scrub their back. Like, they just don't get a really great bath. And I can't tell you how much it means to patients to get that good care, that good bath. Like, you think about like a long day at work or being outside, or you don't feel good and you hop in the warm shower, like, you just feel amazing afterwards. So these patients, it means the world when they can just get cleaned up and just feel really well. Ambulating patients, that's a huge help, is walking your patient. You know, ask your nurse, hey, can this patient walk today? Would it be helpful for them to walk? You know, do they need any assistive devices? Are they okay? Are they off bed rest? You know, is there any limitations to them walking? If not, walk your patient. Like, walk around the hallway and talk to them, get to know them. You know, you're just as part of an integral part of the care. Being a nursing student, you know, just as much as the nurses are and the charge nurses are and everyone else there, because you're really making an impact. Like, that patient's there for 4 days and they're going to remember that nursing student that walked around with them. They're just going to think you're part of the nursing staff. They're not really going to remember that. Patients don't really understand the whole, like, nursing students are separate from the hospital. Like, you're a part of the hospital and you're a part of their care. So take good care of them, get to know them, and be intentional. Like, it makes your position as a student nurse so much better. So yeah, and then care plans. You know, always be thinking when you're there, like look at look at the whole big picture. Does the patient have white blood cell count? Is it trending up? You know, are they at risk for an infection? You know, if they're heart failure, you have decreased cardiac output. Are they really fluid overload? They might be at risk for impaired skin integrity because of all the fluid building up on their legs that can cause little wound ulcers or blisters. You know, there's so much going on. You know, just, you know, those are things that you can kind of even get to know, like talking to the patient while you're walking them. Like you can have your care plan running through your head. And feel free to ask your nurse too. If they're a friendly nurse, they should be more than willing to help you. But I can't say this enough. Just really take time to focus on the patient and interact with your patients. Get a good assessment in. You know, we nurses are running around like crazy, and sometimes we just, you know, we're in there, we do the heart, we do the lungs, we do the bowels, we check pulses, we do all that stuff in. And sometimes like I have to come back in to look at their wounds and all that kind of stuff. But like as a nursing student, like get that done, you know, really investigate that patient, get exposed to doing those routines, because that's going to be very helpful for you as a nurse to really understand that and be exposed to it prior to being a registered nurse on the floor. Quick funny story. So we used to have to write these things called patho papers, which were basically writing a paper about a diagnosis that a patient had, and we would have to write about one of their diagnosis. And my patient had a diagnosis called claudication, and basically claudication is pain upon walking. And it's typically in the leg, and sometimes it comes from a blood clot, and sometimes it's just claudication, you have it chronically. Well, because I thought it was related to a blood clot, this is so embarrassing, but like these are I just want to show you guys, like, you're not perfect, and nursing school you make a lot of silly mistakes, and it's hilarious if it's not like a bad mistake, but you don't know everything, and it's okay that you don't know everything because you're not expected to. I spelled claudication. It was C-L-A-U-D-I-C blah blah blah, but I thought it was like clotication, so throughout the whole paper I spelled it C-L-O-T, clotication. It's not even a word, and like my instructor never let me live it down. Also, another funny story was I had a patient who was a Spanish speaking patient who was taking a medication called Januvia, and at the time Januvia was a new diabetic medication. And so I walked in, and my patient, this wasn't their name, but I'm going to use it because I was like, Miss Hernandez, and I was like, this is your Januvia, and like my instructor just like lost it, and she was like, Kelsey, it's Januvia, it's not Januvia, like the U, and there's no U before the A. So anyway, I just did some really crazy silly things. Clinical can be a crazy, ridiculous, awesome, hard situation all in one. But you guys are awesome. You're going to do amazing. Go out, be amazing nurses, investigate, get to know your patients, look up labs, just learn. This is a learning experience, and your only time you're going to get in the hospital, if you don't work at the hospital outside of school, is that time. So instead of being in the room writing down paperwork, be out there on the floor, be exposed, get to learn things, you know. You guys are amazing. You're completely capable. Don't worry about any setbacks in this program whatsoever, because you're going to make it. It may not be in the timing that you want, or it may not be the route that you want, but no matter what, you will make it to this position. Nursing is hard. It is scary. It is crazy, but it is amazing. It is the best profession in the world. I love what I do every single day, and I'm here to encourage you guys, and I want you to be there too, and that's why I do this. So I hope you guys have an amazing clinical. Good luck. Be strong, be confident, and your heart is mine. I will talk to you soon. Love you. Bye.